I'm Johnny Vaughan of Top Brass Gang, and this is Steve Brooker, otherwise known as Mud God. I actually want to change history. He's one of a select group of licensed amateur archaeologists known as mudlarks, who scour the banks of the River Thames, searching not for buried treasure, but for hidden history, and whose discoveries have changed our understanding of London forever. There's stuff in that mud that no one's ever seen before. On the Thames foreshore lies over 2,000 years of history just waiting to be discovered. And that's what does it for me. But larking's no job for those afraid to get stuck in. To wade through time, you've got to be prepared to get your hands dirty, armed with little more than a trowel and a lot of patience. Wait! Steve's agreed to share with me his decades of knowledge and experience. It's cool. We'll race against time and tide to get to the bottom of London's muddy history. Oh yes! Our adventures on the foreshore will propel us on historical quests that range from the sublime to the painful to the downright disgusting. Oh, murder reeks! Out the shed. As we become on today's Mudmen. She's got a fire up her skirt and we'll get a suck on her head. I investigate the murky world of baccy. Really hot, nearly less like spilling a match on the wood. Steve's on the trail of an ancient trade. And it's no time to be sheepish, we hate its guts. That is horrendous. Oh God, it lingers as well. All in the name of history. Today we're at the heart of London's East End in Wapping, situated between the north side of the Thames and the ancient thoroughfare simply known as the Highway. Wapping's location on the banks of the Thames in the heart of old London has always meant the maritime industry has been strongly represented here. You've got sailors, boat builders, mast makers, sail makers, all sorts of trades you associate with the sea have been located here. It was also the location for the execution dock, where pirates and other nautical ne'er-do-wells would find justice being executed down there in a gibbet constructed on the low water mark. The good old days, eh? I know it's a weird place where we find some great things though, so let's get mudlarking. So Steve, as part of my passage into mudlarking, as I become a mudman, I need really to learn the craft. So how are we going to do this?
There's many ways we can do this, but today we're going to go by trowel.
A trowel.
So you've been issued a trowel?
I've been issued with a trowel, sir! It's a hot day. Have you got anything underneath there? Because I'm sweating like anything under here.
Totally commando.
Are you?
If you used to be a mudlark, they should have told you this, yeah, that you have got to be totally naked underneath, from waist down.
Are you?
And it's to do with the sea breeze. It's the way that it sort of like, it comes up underneath your trousers, circulates, back out again.
It sort of changes the whole way. Now I know you're naked under there. I don't know why. It sort of changes my view of you and everything. It sort of turned into much more of a homoerotic piece. Yeah, it's not unacceptable. I'm just saying, don't get too close, you know, because I will be uneasy slightly.
First of all, let's get down and dirty. I'm going to talk you into what you're going to be looking for.
Okay, nice.
Using the trowel, scraping around, just teasing back that foreshore. Oh, I think we've got a piece of coral there.
Why is there coral in the Thames?
Because imagine a boat coming over from another country.
Yeah.
And being empty, say, they'd actually fill the bow up with something heavy and it would be coral.
Okay.
So there's certain parts on the foreshore that we go to, it's full of coral.
Okay, okay. And look, that's what you got here, look, which is interesting. Look, there's a Smarty lid there. And if you notice, that's an H on it. Now, Smarty stopped doing that over 10 years ago.
Who is the expert here?
Sorry, I just...
Just because you just throw it away, please.
Sorry, I just used to like Smarties.
And just get on with the scraping.
Okay, sorry. It's slim pickings on the foreshore so far, but Steve and I aren't alone today. As always, he's brought along his army of mudmen in the shape of Woolwich John, husband and wife team GM and Steph, Stolly the dog, and Rock Cod, all of whom will hopefully help us dig up some booty. Okay, now Steve, you haven't found this today. He has not found this today. This is a previous item he's found for legal reasons. I have to say that. Steve, tell us about this boot you found. It's fantastic.
Well, this was found about a couple of weeks ago and came out of the mud about 500 yards from this.
Okay.
Now, it's Victorian, early Victorian.
You know that, eh?
Yeah,
I know you are a so-called expert, but I just want to know how much you're winging it.
Well, quite a lot, really.
Okay, fine.
When you actually...
It's old.
It's old,
It's
yeah.
old.
If you feel the quality of that leather.
Yeah, stiff, isn't it?
And then we go to the hobnails on the bottom, so of course it's telling us that it's, of course, early Victorian.
And this style very fashionable at the moment with the ladies.
When this is not normally in the collection, yeah, my wife actually wears this out at night.
I bet she wears it out.
and she only has the one leg as well.
Okay, fair enough. Kinky.
Very kinky.
One-legged antique boot fetishist. Fantastic. Yeah. But I like this because literally you're finding we're in the footprints of history down here. That's exactly what we're finding. So quite apt really for us, isn't it?
Yeah. So sometimes, yeah, when you actually look at these soles,
Yeah.
you can actually see footprints in there.
Oh man.
So this makes it more personal. So you're after your gold coins, but it's boring. All right, it's a lousy old boot, but it's a personal item.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Jim.
What you at, Jam? Is that like an ancient mother
Oh, what
booty?
have you had? GM.
Oh, sorry.
You like this?
What you at, Jam?
You like this? What do you make of that? Oh, that is nice.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So go on, you are the so-called expert. Give us your so-called expertise.
Well, I'm going to say on that, probably, I don't know, 17th, 18th. It's got an actual wooden inlay there that, of course, is breaking down.
What sort of wood is that?
Ebony.
Is it ebony? Ah, the only wood that is heavier than water.
Precisely.
Actually, there's two. I can't remember the name of the other one. It's not a crucifix, just a plain cross.
No, I mean, look at the holes on it. It would have been a crucifix, I would have thought.
Okay.
That's really nice, though, John. Like that. Yeah, I'm well chuffed with it. Well, I also had what I thought was a trade token.
Yeah, what is it?
It's the Charles II Scottish farthing.
Okay. So that's...
Quite chuffed with that. It's good. Quite nice.
Okay, so we know it's after about 1660. So this coin could have been around for the Great Fire and the Plague. This coin would have been lurking around, but it definitely would have been.
And this also is a spitting image of a 17th century token, hence why John said, you know, as he had it up, he thought it was a 17th century token.
But it's interesting to think, and aside from that, you're holding something that could have been there through the Great Fire of London and the Plague, and it ends up here today in Brooks's hand. GM's had a couple of fantastic finds, but the tide seems to be coming in rather than out, and there's one thing lacking from my larking adventure. Okay, Steve, when I got my Mudman licence for mudlarking, I really thought I was going to see some mud. Now, what's happened? Where's the mud? Where's the mud you promised me, Brooksy?
You normally like 50 foot and it'd be full of mud, but today, yeah, the barrier's gone up.
Why is the barrier up?
I think they'll probably be testing something or something. But what that does, yeah, is all this water that would normally be going that way can't get out that way.
Oh, because they stopped the tide.
Yeah. And
So it defied even Canute.
so what happens is, yeah, is this would 50 foot out that way be full of mud.
Okay.
And of course we're stuck on the rocks. We're actually on the rocks.
So this isn't the best area for mudlarking, is it?
No,
And I
it's not.
found, if you look at the rubbish I've found, I was really hoping to get in mud. I've got all my mud clothes.
You turned up late.
I was having a bacon sandwich in the pub.
Precisely, and hence why you've got the rock. You're left with the
Okay.
rock. But of course this can change.
Yeah.
Remember, we can come down here tomorrow and this will be full of sand.
Steve's called time on our search as the mudless foreshore isn't going to yield any of its secrets. With the Thames barrier closed, the tide's coming in pretty fast. So it's farewell Wapping, but not adieu. On time but bacon buttiness, we hit the banks of Wapping again, and the foreshore is as different as the weather. Okay, it's a bit cold today, isn't it?
Yeah, breezy.
That sort of breeze going right up the Where there was once shingle and shale, now lies vast swathes of gloopy mud that, whilst promising for larking, could be a potential death trap. What?
We've gone from the pebble
Yes.
to the thick mud.
This is the stuff of larks.
Yeah, and I'm going to teach you to tread the mud.
Did you say I'm gonna teach you?
Yeah, because
like that.
I'm in the hood. First of all, you can see where maybe you could tread on top, and you're not going to go out onto that. Why wouldn't you go onto that? What's the difference between that and that?
That's got stones there. It tells us it can support a bit of weight. Plus, it gives something to stand up on. That could just be quicksand, take us right down through.
No, I know it's a bit embarrassing on camera, but I have to ask you, how much do you actually weigh? You must be, what, 17, 18 stone maybe?
Yes, I'm about 6'1", weighing 210 pounds, same as Otis Redding.
So how can you be 6'1"?
Because I lie. Let's get on here. Come on, let's do it.
Also, because we've had the tide over it, you can see where it's clean in places, and of course, thick mud in others.
Mud, glorious mud. Can I ask one more question? How come you've got knee pads and I haven't?
You've got to earn your knee pads.
Really? So like one of those in this rites of passage things?
Do you remember Kung Fu?
I do remember Kung Fu.
Do you remember Grasshopper?
Yes.
Well, when he could walk with rice paper, it was time for him to leave the temple.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember the great knee pads seen in that one, but let's do it then. We might find something here, right?
Yeah, because overnight this is eroded out.
Oh!
Clay pipe.
There's the clay pipe.
This makes a change to me, it's actually decorated.
Is it?
Yeah. Can you see what's on there?
Let's have a look.
It's like Enniskillen or something.
Enniskillen. Actually, shall I tell you what this is?
Yeah, go on.
This is the regimental badge of the Enniskillen Fusiliers. And there's a castle keep with the crown above it. It says Enniskillen and Egypt, which is of course one of the most famous campaigns they did. And the reason I know this, quite weirdly, in case you suddenly think I'm a because this is the last time it's probably going to happen, is that was the regiment my father-in-law was in. Yeah, Pete. He was in this very regiment, so I've seen this before, because he's got quite a lot of militaria pertaining to this regiment. So it's lucky for me, actually, because for a second you might have thought I was quite an expert. But I'm not. Can I put that in my bucket? He's such an old military lovey. He's going to really, really like this. He'll be really touched by that. Especially if you sort of find really good little presents for people and stuff like that.
And for Christmas.
Alright, well, let's go and find some things. So go on, where do you think there's going to be rich pickings? While Steve heads off for a bit of a lark, I'm going to check in with his right-hand man, Rock God, because I've heard a rumour he's had a brilliant find.
Just had a tin farthing up, which are rare as chicken's teeth.
Are they?
Yeah, James II, there was copper was not prevalent enough, basically. There wasn't enough copper to mint the farthings and halfpennies. So what he did, tin was a lot cheaper, but they're always really worn because it's tin, it's a very soft material, so they always wear really easily. So if I was to find this on a field, it'd be in a lot worse condition than this. This is actually pretty good. Okay. And again, because the mud's anaerobic, it prevents that deterioration.
Once in a blue moon, larkers can have finds up that can be worth a few quid. But we're in this for posterity and not profit. And even the smallest of objects can tell the story of our capital's past. I've just had something, well, I think is really nice. I actually thought it was a rose farthing. Now, that would have been used on the ferries that would come across from one side to the other in the 16th century. But it's not. What I've actually got is I've got a 17th century token. And I tell you, I'm going to show Johnny this because there's a great story behind this. Baldy!
Yeah?
Over here. I've a nice little find. I actually thought it was that rose farthing, but of course it's not. It's a 17th century token. So if you can imagine, the local traders around here in the Civil War and just past the Civil War could actually issue their own coinage. But what's really good about it is we can research this.
Yeah.
We can find out where this came from in town. We can find out what the guy did. We can find out what inn it came from.
Yeah.
But what's really nice about these, it's a personal touch, and that's what I love about these, that we can go and research this. But it's exciting.
What's the best trade token you've ever found? What's the jackpot trade token?
My best one is, of course, think of 1666.
Great Fire.
Great Fire of London.
So what have you found?
Pudding Lane.
You found a Pudding Lane?
Trader's token. And who knows? Who knows where this came from?
Who knows, Steve? Who knows? But it's another voyage of discovery for the Mudman. Coming up, but there were thousands, right? In the thousands, the bearded Lord of the Foreshore gives us the lowdown on our finds. And this is Johnny! Mud God Steve Brooker and I, along with an army of mudmen, have come up with a treasure trove of artefacts from the foreshore at Wapping. All finds can be proudly presented to the Portable Antiquity Scheme, set up to record objects found by members of the public, whether that's on the foreshore, in your garden, or just walking your dog. There are several regional finds officers around the country, but fortunately for us, we've arranged to meet ours at the pub. Sorry, Mudmen HQ. Jeff Egan works for the PAS and the British Museum. He's also got a beard, so he clearly knows his stuff. This is what we found in Wapping, and I've got to say, there is a whopping amount to look at. And everybody laughed. Right, let's have a little look.
Well, you're surprised at the amount that's found. There's a huge range of material here. It's fantastic.
Well, you put that absolutely right, Jeff. You really have. I am astounded, in fact, at the amount of stuff we found here. What I'm even more astounded by is how little I found. but how much everyone else found, which is bad for me, but great for mudmen. Let's start with the pipes over here.
Okay, let's go. Well, we've got a range of clay pipes here, right from the 17th century through to the 19th century.
Okay.
There's decorated and plain, and this small one is perhaps the most interesting because it's so early. It's early 17th century, and it would have contained a very tiny amount of tobacco indeed.
Yeah.
When there were very few ships going between America and England, so you were getting just the beginnings of that very important trade, which grew and grew. But that one would have held perhaps an eighth of what this 19th century clay pipe, and you can measure the age almost by the size. It's not 100% true, but it's a good rule of thumb.
Okay. Now, the one I found, of course, intriguing is this one here. It's got the crown and the keep there, and then Enniskillen, and then Egypt, weirdly.
It's not very well made. The hole has gone actually out, so it's probably a second as a pipe.
Is it? Yeah, it is.
You see where the wire has come out, and it's way off centre.
The flume
Yes.
has come right out of it there.
So they didn't always get it right.
Yeah.
It's actually rarer to find ones that are like that than ones that were.
Isn't that brilliant? What was less valuable then becomes more valuable now. How brilliant. That's history for you. What's this here? This looks like a more intriguing item here, Jeff.
Oh, that's yet another one of these lead seals for cloths. And it's got CR for Charles I. And this, I think, CR with a crown over a fleur-de-lis. Yep.
Yeah.
So, 17th century.
I mean, Jeff, we don't want to stress it, but this is an area of specialism for you.
It is indeed.
I think we're with one of the country's leading experts.
Can I just have a word with you about this?
Yes, yeah.
Right, we spoke about this before, yeah. Now, we've said between us that do not pick up that seal again.
Now, it's a seal of approval. Your cloth has been looked at, examined, and you pay a penny tax to the king on your cloth.
How would that have gone then, Jeff? Come on, make it
On
live.
the side, there's this one which has got the hole. That's put on one side. It's bent round. These would originally have been attached. There would
Yeah.
be a rivet on the back of that one,
And that goes
which
through
is
there.
pushed through
Yeah.
the cloth and through the hole, bent over slightly, and then you hit it with two dies
Yeah.
in the way of hammered coins.
Oh, right, okay.
They're labels that tell you on the market stall it's good cloth. It's been
And
rated.
how old are these?
These vary from, there's one that's Elizabethan there, it's actually got ER on it, and the Tudor arms, through to James I, right at the beginning of the 17th century. So, a lot in a tiny little thing.
Okay, what else have we got there, Jeff?
Well, there are three halfpennies here, and extraordinarily, they're all made of tin, which is very unusual for English coins. They're using the Cornish tin. Late 17th century, there's William and Mary, looks like either James II or Charles II, but they're very unusual survivals. They weren't particularly popular, and one of these has actually got a hole where a plug of copper alloy, which was put in to show they were real, has fallen out. But that was actually rather a difficult thing to do, and that was to guard against forgery.
These were the days when a coin was materially worth something.
Absolutely,
A
yes.
bit like our 2p's were until
Yeah.
they changed those, yeah.
That's exactly it.
I don't want to put something values on them, but there were thousands, right? In the thousands.
Well, as you know, I'm not into the monetary value of anything, and I'm not really interested in coins,
Yeah.
because you have the same coinage in your pockets that I have today, so it doesn't do anything for me. But as you say, monetary value, because these are so rare, yes, they are worth a few bobby.
Why is it whenever I ask any of the mudlarkers or any of the chaps in the museum, you are all so averse to giving a value to anything?
Because it's the boring side of it. Whenever you see some of these programs on TV, how much is it worth? How much is it worth? It's got nothing to do with that item. Unless this coin has a different mint mark that nobody has ever seen before, it's boring. I want something that could change history, something that's different.
Well, history, not money, you've said it all. Well done. Well, we've got such a range of material here, from a clay pipe that would have been smoked by almost anybody at its time, everybody would have been familiar with it, to these four tokens. They're all copper alloy, and they were issued in the mid-17th century. They were issued by individual traders, and they've not only got the date on in some cases, they've got the name and the address of the issuer. And it might have been a grocer or a fishmonger, just a shop owner or somebody in trade of some kind, and they were to supplement the coin of the realm, which had run out of farthings at this time. And because they got the name and address on, you can trace exactly where they were in some cases. and I hope that it's going to be possible to trace that one person. It's a challenge, but there we are.
There we go, it's a challenge. Do you accept the challenge?
I think it's for you to do. You go off and find it.
I accept your challenge on behalf of Steve.
Thank you.
Steve.
I will take up the challenge.
Steve. Seek and destroy.
Our finds have a very trade-like feel today, so we're going to go our separate ways in a sort of cliched 80s cop show kind of way to uncover more about the big trades of our capital's past. Trading tokens were actually an illegal form of small change, equivalent to a farthing used throughout Britain in the 17th century. Less than 25 years in existence, there are now more than 20,000 types that we know of, but Steve's token could very well be unique and shed some light on London's trading past.
I find many of these small coins on the banks of the Thames and from all walks of London life. Now, tracing the tradesman or the trade means coming off the foreshore and into the city. Here at the Museum of London, they keep shopped 2,000 different trading tokens. Expert Muriel Jeter has agreed to give me a short apprenticeship on my long-forgotten currency.
Small denominational coins would have been in copper or base metal, which was sort of presumed to be unsuitable for the head of the monarch to appear. They were really easy to forge. They weren't worth as much copper as they were made from, so sort of forgeries were rife and people just didn't believe in them and often refused to accept them. So traders had to come up with their own tokens to replace those.
So how did the trader's token work?
Right, well, you'd issue a trader's token with your name on it and the location of your business. So if, for instance, somebody came into your shop and they had a silver penny coin and they wanted to buy something that was worth a farthing, as the shopkeeper you would give them 3 farthing tokens as change. And then they could use those farthing tokens to buy more products in your shop at a future date, or they could go to the shop next door and use them. So as long as it was in the local area and the shopkeeper knew the issuer and he trusted them to change them back into silver coins, then he would accept those tokens. So what the traders would have is a tray underneath their counter where they would put all the tokens from the local businesses that they got. And when they got a certain amount, they could go back to that shop and change them back into silver coins. I mean, I've got a really nice example in here of a trading token from Drury Lane. So let's just see if this one's actually legible. And it's got a helmet on it.
So a helmet on that one, would that be an armourer? Would it be a hat maker?
Not necessarily. The symbols don't always stand for the trade that was going on. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they just refer to the shop sign that was hanging outside. Because at the time there were no house numbers, so most people located places in London via the signs that hung outside, which were often completely random and unrelated to what the business was.
So what happened to the tokens in the end? Were they just melted down? Because of course we find lots on the foreshore. So what happened to the rest of them? There must have been thousands of them.
I think a lot of people must have been out of pocket actually, because it's a bit like, I think it was the 1970s when halfpenny went out of issue, and I expect loads of people still have halfpennies rattling around in their homes, and they would have done the same with all these trade tokens. Before they were banned, you'd have to frantically exchange them back into silver, and if you didn't manage to do it in time, then you're stuck.
You got 2,000. Now I have my one that I found at Wapping with Johnny. Now there's a little bit of the corner of it missing, but can you get anything off of that?
It's a really nice example actually. It's really clear. I can see that it says Bow Lane and the initials PB. So I'm guessing an unmarried person because there's no wife's initial. And there's a horseshoe and PRT, so possibly Peter Somethingford with a horseshoe from Bow Lane. So what we can do is look at our other Bow Lane tokens and see if it matches any of those. So there you go, very nice. Look for my Bow Lane ones, which are here. So I think I have a match.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Even though yours has got a trunk out of it, it's nicer than ours. Ours are a bit more corroded. So it's PRT Brailsford with a horseshoe and in Bow Lane, yeah. the back's the same.
Any idea what the trade is?
You'd think from the horseshoe that he might be some sort of smith, but not necessarily. We'll see what else there is from Bow Lane, see if there's anything else that gives us a clue. Well, this one is from the sign of the horseshoe in Bow Lane. It says, yeah, at the horseshoe in Bow Lane, but then it says Tallow Chandler. So that's not anything to do with horseshoes.
That's a candle maker.
Yeah. On the other side you can see there's a little chap who's actually making tallow candles there, dipping them into the animal fat.
Tallow Chandler, Bow Lane. Of course, Bow Lane is only 5 minutes from here. Can you paint me a picture of what Bow Lane would have looked like in its time?
Well, I can show you if you like.
Can you? Even better.
This map actually shows the area of London that was destroyed in the Great Fire. So, and here is Bow Lane, what is now lined with modern shops. We've had tallow chandlers, pubs, and all sorts of different businesses along it.
It's amazing to think that Peter Browsman, the tallow chandler who handed out my token way back when, actually worked here in Bow Lane. His shop, like so many buildings, would have been turned to ash by the Great Fire of London in 1666. So I'll never know the exact site of his trade, but what I do know is he would have opened up his shop listening to the famous Bow bells of St Mary le Bow, a church rebuilt by Sir Christopher Wren from 1670. It's strange to think that the person that issued this token would have gone to work every day listening to the bells, the sound of London's working class. Now, I can't return it to its rightful owner, but I can return it to the place its life began.
Still to come on Mudmen, snout, sheep and safe sex, 17th century style.
That's all right then. It's a French tickler.
Our finds on the Wapping foreshore have led us to investigate all things trade. Steve returned a 300-year-old trading token to its spiritual home, and now my turn to investigate the trade that powered the empire.
In the 21st century, to be a smoker is to be virtually a social outcast. Banished to car parks, out the front of pubs, the fire escape and office building, special smoker zones that tend to be odorous and full of crazed-looking addicts. It's strange that suddenly we all find the smell of smoke so revolting, because for about 500 years we were all mad for tobacco.
James J. Fox, one of the oldest surviving shops in the prestigious area of St James Street, built their business in 1787 on the back of the tobacco trade. So there's no better place to roll up and find out a little bit more about baccy.
Hello. Very pleased to meet you. Now Chris, as we search the Thames foreshore, mudlarking, the one historical artefact that comes up time and time again, the most visible reminder really, and most consistent reminder of London's past, are these clay pipes. Now you've got a selection there. Here's the bowl of one that Steve, my fellow mudman, found. What could you first of all tell me about that pipe?
Well, I can tell you it's very late 19th century. I've got a similar fragment here, and that one's made by John Hill in Plumstead.
What's that called there? The heel?
It's the heel.
The heel of the pipe. I mean, it really is identical, isn't it?
Yes, so I think they could be the same maker.
Yeah, they are exactly. That's wonderful. Look, I don't think come in on this, but they are exactly the same on the bottom. They both have Egypt on the bottom, which is obviously where the Enniskillen Fusiliers fought a campaign, and that's exactly the same stem. I mean, you can see it's exactly the same. It's got the same emblem on the bottom, exactly the same heel. So what's the date on this stem you've got here?
So I think it actually does date between 1900 and 1902.
Tell me a little bit then about what you can tell from the pipes and the history of London from them.
Well, this is the earliest pipe. really, that you'll find in London. It's really small, it's really nicely finished. It dates from about 1580 to 1610. All is so small because tobacco is so expensive at that time. Very few people could afford to smoke. So if you look at this pipe, which is 1580, 1610, and your pipe that you picked up, you can see how much tobacco must have become cheaper to be able to fill that one compared to that one. You get a good smoke out of that one, only a few seconds out of this one.
One of the earliest lessons in history is that tobacco arrived here courtesy of Sir Walter Raleigh. He was seen smoking it, his servant doused him with water because he was frightened he was on fire. Is that a myth?
I think it is, because there are reports that people were smoking a little bit earlier than Walter Raleigh. In the 1540s, we know that the early explorers are reporting back on the Native Americans smoking tobacco. The tobacco plants then start being brought to Europe in the 1560s and being grown in the royal palaces, and then slowly people take up tobacco pipe smoking.
Okay, and was it always called smoking?
No, that term only came in the late 17th century, and before that it was called dry drunkenness.
It was called dry drunkenness. That's absolutely brilliant. So it was seen as being just another vice like alcohol at the time. Okay, I guess it was
another narcotics.
Okay. At what stage does it become something that everyone does? Does it move out of the realms of the moneyed and through the sort of merchant classes and into just being the everyman thing?
I think by the 1640s and the 1660s, everybody can afford to smoke.
It really only takes 100 years to go from being as costly as caviar to as cheap as chips. I mean, do we know how hard they have to be persuaded? So remember, obviously I used to smoke a bit as a lad. It's so illogical, isn't it, to burn something, take in this smoke and blow it out when it's so instantly sort of disgusting when you're a lad. I wonder how quickly did it take then, Chris?
Perhaps traders, they wanted to make people smoke, and so they promoted the health benefits of smoking.
Did they? So it's sold with the health benefits of it. I love that. All the most unhealthy things are.
It's all about herbalism and that sort of thing. So I think that's one reason why.
But that health benefit thing, I mean, that went on for years. You can see those old adverts for Chesterfield saying, think first, most doctors smoke Chesterfield. So that tradition of it being for your health is really, I mean, that's for 500 years of smoking. It's only recently that's changed.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. It was very fashionable, wasn't it, in the 30s, 40s, 50s to smoke. But we have to go back, if you go back to the Great Plague, then we know then that people were taught to smoke, and in fact it was compulsory to eat in college because the smoke kept down the miasma diseases born in the air, foul air.
These days, the health implications of smoking are well documented, and quite frankly, only a fool would smoke. But with so many pipes being found on the foreshore, I can't resist having a little puff in the name of history with a 120-year-old tobacco blend.
Usually a little hot to start off with.
Really hot, that's like spilling match on the lid.
Because there's no carbon actually built up in the bowl itself.
Quite frankly, I think there's a little bit more research to be done here. So, whilst I enjoy the warmth of Winston Churchill's favourite tobacconist, like all good leaders, I'm sending Steve into the field. Literally.
Johnny's heard there's some hard graft involved in the next part of our quest, so I've travelled outside the city alone to find out more about tallow chandling, a trade featured on the token I found on the foreshore. It's the mid-1600s and life expectancy is terrible. If the plague of 1665 doesn't get you where 65,000 people die, you can live to the ripe old age of 35. And with 62% of the population working in agriculture, having to put in an 80-hour week plus, times were hard, really hard. Historian Stuart Peachey has agreed to show me the art of tallow chandling. In the 17th century, everyone needed candles, but wax candles were extremely expensive to produce. So tallow chandlers required a bit more guts. Literally.
As you know from that trading token, there was a profession of tallow chandlers, and this is tallow going on to milk now. Bit of a smelly occupation, because the first stage of it is taking the fat from your dead animal, and within that you've got a lot of membranes, bits and pieces, and you've got to boil it down to extract the pure fat. So before you get to that nice clean white fat we've got there, you've got all those smelly bits being boiled up. And the other thing that gets you, you know that chip shop fat smell you get. Well, that's probably the nearest you'll get nowadays, that incredible concentrated waft to the sort of smell that a tallow chandler is surrounded by day in and day out.
So the fat, how did they actually get that off? Was it just drawn off the skin, scraped off the skin?
It varies from animal to animal. With a sheep, there are small areas where you get nodules of fat. With a pig, you think when you get a pork chop, you've got that great slab of fat on the outside, and certainly on a 17th century pig, it can be a couple of inches thick. So there, you can literally just slice it off and then just work from there on in. The other thing is that the fat is twice as valuable as the lean in the 17th century. So they're deliberately producing animals that are grossly overweight. And there were various tests. If you were fattening a cow ready for slaughter, one of the more mentionable things you did was to go up to it and you felt its belly button, you squidged it, and if it wasn't really floppy and soft, then it wasn't anywhere near fat enough.
So was it a good trade to be in?
Certainly somewhere like London, where there's an enormous need for light and people haven't got their own animals, so they can't cut you out of the equation. Yes, it was profitable. There was certainly money to be made there, and tallow chandlers, smelly though they might be, would be respected members of society.
So what was the downside of being a tallow chandler?
Well, as you know from the chip pan, you've got fat that can spit and sort of, I'm sure they had lots of little burns from time to time on that score. You've got the smell, as we've mentioned already, and the other side of it is that at the start of the process, your stock is going to have a lot of raw material that's straight from the corpse. So there's going to be flies around, there's going to be a risk of disease. And you can see it's almost melted, just starting to turn there, and that should be ready for us to go out and start dipping candles. We start at the front one, and we're going to go round in sequence. The problem is, if you just go dunk, dunk, it's too hot, and it will be melting off as fast as you're putting it on. So you dunk it in, get a thin layer on, put that one to the back, so it's cooling, work down the line, and by the time you get to it, with a bit of luck, it's chilled off.
Was there any chance of sort of like getting out of the ghetto and bettering yourself?
Well, the problem was that there was less flexibility in the trades than there were in agricultural life. When you were apprenticed to a trade, it was 7 years to learn that trade. You know, your parents would have to pay for you to become an apprentice. So retraining, that was a bit of a non-starter.
So of course the master chandler, how many of these can he knock out a day?
Well, he himself is probably not getting his hands greasy by that time. He's keeping business going, sailing, all the rest of it. This is the job you put the apprentice on, and sort of monotonous work.
Tallow chandling may have been dirty, smelly and tedious work, but it's nothing compared to what I've got lined up for Johnny. Up next on Mudmen.
3 hours he stayed to get here. Got lost, traipsed through a field, just to watch Steve cut the anus out of a sheep. Stay with history. Our larking at Wapping led me and Steve to investigate all things trade. Brooksy tried his hand at tallow chandling, the profession on the token he found on the foreshore. Now he says it's time for me to learn a trade. Stop touching me! Making 17th century condoms.
A little something for you, Volney!
Yeah. Oh, no. Is that going to be just... Actually, why are we doing this?
You want to get at the guts?
Yeah.
So you can learn how to make condoms.
Yeah, okay, I know I'm going to be...
It's all part of the trade.
That's my learning of a trade.
Yep.
Lovely.
Excellent. Syphilis had been a growing menace since its introduction in the previous century. Whilst various wacky cures had little effect, the Tudors did make a breakthrough in prevention. The sheep gut condom.
That should be it. You were well.
Okay,
Right,
what's that one, Stu?
2 pieces of rope, tie one onto each back leg. Okay, now,
You got it?
watch your head.
Okay.
Right, now grab it.
Legend says the sheath was invented by a physician in the court of King Charles II called Dr. Condom, although there is no proof of his existence. One thing that is for certain, though, is that the majority of condoms would have been made by enterprising butchers, who would supplement their income by tying a knot in their sausage skins and flogging them as the latest innovation in birth control.
Right. That was the easy bit.
That was the easy bit.
Yeah, no problem. All you've done is lifted something up and tied it up. What we've got to do now is get inside and start playing around with the innards, because you only need a certain part of the intestines for the condom.
Okay.
Right.
Which bit are we looking for?
Basically the small intestine.
The small intestine. Okay, so...
Unless you're actually incredibly well endowed. We need a small incision. If you just stab into it like that with your knife, you're going to bust the guts. You're going to get excrement that's still inside there everywhere.
Oh no, I'm not doing this. It's just
No, you just got to do it gently and carefully.
Okay.
It's a skilled job, you see. This is why it's a trade.
No! It's talking to you!
It's obviously going to be, you can't say driven.
I'll stay here.
Take a pinch.
I'm just
And then you can go through sideways, there's no risk of going in too deep. Blade facing straight towards me, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now,
That's it, just straight up there. Okay, we're in. Right. Just work on down, bottom edge of there, so you don't actually finish up with the udder. What you'll probably finish up with in a second is a loud farting noise.
Oh, there we go, look, there's something going on there.
That's it. Oh, there you go. What did I tell you?
Oh man, that reeks! Oh,
That's without
that
actually
really smells bad! I smell some things, but my God! Out the shed. That is horrendous!
That is bad.
That's the worst I've ever smelled. I've smelled some baddies. That's horrendous!
It's still, I tell you, it's still going.
Oh God, it lingers as well.
Just don't go too far in, otherwise if you stab into there you'll be bursting it and you'll have excrement everywhere. At the moment, you've just got gas.
Right, is that good?
That's the inside. See that bulging bit?
Yeah.
This is the outside. You can cut through the outside and keep on going down. That's the way.
Okay.
And if you get...
Oh my God, it's more! Oh, is that still fart?
Yes, it's still farting.
I think you should do the next thing.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not going to do
Come here, what you do?
Steve, it's your show. I'm just thinking about you now. All right, I'm thinking about you know. I've already messed up my television career. It's time for you to build one.
Right. Now, here it comes. It's starting to go on its own, but you need to get in there with your hands.
Do you know what, Stu? How about we go route one?
No, not good. That's for bones.
Now, I'm a bit unhygienic to actually put my hands in there. Is that okay?
Don't worry, that's full of crap.
Anyhow, now. Yeah.
Oh, I just split something. What was that I just split?
I don't know. It sounds like your own trousers.
Looks like a fair bit of the... That's the way. Let it go.
Oh man.
No, right in deep. Oh, it's nice and deep.
Can I just say, oh Christ, there's no business like show business. There's no business like no.
So, these membranes, if I just tug at them...
Yeah, just take them.
Yeah, put it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where's the small intestine? We must have it now.
It's in there somewhere.
That stinks.
And the smell is what?
Got some good lardy bits there. Now, that's exactly what a chandler would be looking for.
Ah! Did you hear that, Bonnie? Or are you just standing behind the sheet, not looking?
I'm just trying to steady it so that you've got an even platform. Can I ask how you're going to wash your hands after all this?
Bucket of water.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what's that scraping
A
though?
lot of those bits that you're turning your
What are you
nose at,
scraping against there?
probably the bottom end of the neck.
Oh, okay.
I mean, these bits that you're objecting to is what you get in your standard pack of sausages from the supermarket. Okay, let's have a look, see what you left. No, that's mostly good. There's a bit of fat up the top end that will come out for the chandler. But you've got most of the organs out from the look of it. Now you need to find your small intestine in that lot. So we need to sort all the bits out. Big fella will be the liver.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's lungs.
Yeah.
That's probably stomach.
There's definitely
And
stomach.
we're probably looking in there for the smaller intestine, I would guess, in that bag load of stuff. Now, see that green stuff, green yellow? That looks like small intestine to me. But that's a nice bit of tubing. And you see it's held together in a coil by this bit of white membrane.
Yeah.
So find the two ends of that, slice it off, and you've got your small
This stuff
intestine.
is full of excrement, right?
The actual intestine
Yeah.
is white. The colour is due to the contents.
Okay, so really, you've really got to make sure these are washed before you start using them as condoms. This is Steve
It would be advisable.
Okay. Now, how much did they use these as condoms? What era did this happen in?
Well, they certainly found some in the moat of Dudley Castle from the Civil War in the 1640s.
Okay.
The strange thing about those ones, I remember rightly, there was about 5 or 6 of them. They'd been used and they were still tied together. Now, we want to get all of this out because what you don't use for condoms, it's got all sorts of other uses. Sausages, even rice puddings and bread puddings came in these in the 17th century.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's happening now?
Well, let's go and find a bucket of water and a horn. The final thing you've got to do with this is to get the remaining excrement that's smeared all over the inside of that out. So you need to put a horn
Certainly.
Hold that gently, slide it up. You just work it up with your fingers. Right. That now ties in the groove.
There we go.
Okay. You hold that. And you get that jug and just pour water through, and we'll see a dilute solution of excrement coming out the end. There it is, filling up nicely, and away it goes.
That's good.
So how many times can I get to use this personally?
Well, in theory, I suppose you could keep rinsing it out and using it time and time again. If you can undo the knot in the end, and then you can just trim that down to length, otherwise you've got that flopping around at the end.
That's all right, though. It's a French tickler.
What you don't have is any excess capacity.
I don't know what you're talking about right now, but it sounds great.
The bulge at the end, because it's an absolute tube.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Where does the old go?
Well, it's going to mean it moves. Now, that's why, because this thing could slip off, that quite often they'd attach it with ribbons and tie it around the other end.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all it is. Well, Steve, chop it off, get them off.
Oh, I just put it, we go from there.
Yeah, it'll snap.
There we go.
Yep.
I've got a mixture though. Looking like I've just got it on my finger, and that's quite tight.
Yeah.
So is this the right intestines? I know it's small, isn't
It's like I said, when a woman went out buying intestines for a man, she'd have to ask, is it a sheep man, a pig man, or a chicken man? Now all you need to do is fit some ribbons to keep it on with, and away you go. So, let's see what we can find.
Oh, there you go. There you go, matey.
Superb.
You're going to keep it? You're going to get a little box for it?
Oh, wow.
Call it Old Shep.
Between you and me, I am on to a promise tonight.
So there you go, Steve. Now you got a trade.
I thought being a commercial window fitter was like hard going, but that was just disgusting. I've never done anything like that before.
That was when this sheep's tucked out together. One of the most horrendous smell. Well, it's the most horrendous smell I've ever encountered.
It was. People at home not going to know how much that smelled, but it was. I was semi-heaving there.
Well done volunteering to do all the hard work there.
Yeah, but I didn't volunteer. You keep pushing me to do it all the time.
Because it's your show, isn't it? You're like the good guy who does things, and I'm like the guy who's like cowardly.
It's meant to be 50-50.
Oh,
always 50-50.
It was 50-50. We both in there together.
It was 80-20.
It was 80-20. You're a good man. Come, let's go down the town. You can take old Shep with you.
You're just such a pansy when it's you're just a pansy.
They're not going to watch history just to watch like me being sick, are they? They want to watch you get